Hey, welcome to episode 169 of Awkwardly Awesome Podcast. I'm your host, I'm your host, Jason Freeman, and today I'm doing something a little different for Awesome Podcast. I'm singing and dancing, do. Just kidding. Actually, I'm having a conversation with one of my wonderful friends, Harmony Sedona. So Harmony Sedona and we talk often, and we've gotten into a groove of having these really amazing, empowering conversations about things that supercharge us and help us move forward. And we wanted to share a little of that with all of you today. So I'll be back with more info, but first this. Not that. But first this.
Today's guest, Harmony Sedona.
I'm honored to be having a conversation today with my friend Harmony Sedona. And I already said that, but I'm buying just for a little time while I find what I'm looking for here. So I'm saying filler words, and it helps that I say words slowly. So it takes longer for me to say filler words. Anyway, I found it. Let me tell you a little bit about who I'm having a conversation with today. Harmony Sedona is a wordsmith and wedding mentor who knows wedding can be playful. Isn't that amazing? I mean, so often we're so serious about the act of writing to think of it as something playful. Oh, that's so fun. She is an advocate for people's brilliance and truth so that they may see themselves in new empowering ways. Harmony has created a powerful modality called writer whispering, an organic writing and healing process in which she guides creative and entrepreneurs to write and develop content with joy. And I'm your host. I'm the other person in the conversation. I'm a professional speaker with a nifty speech impediment. I thought of that nifty speech impediment thing a few days ago, and I like it. Hope you do too. I'm a writer, an author, an imperfect best coach, and a lover of 90s country music, and of course, the host of Awkwardly Awesome Podcast. Please help me welcome Harmony to the show.
Hi guys, we're having a kitty moment. Hello.
Hello.
Apparently
Welcome,
they
my
want to be on
friend.
the podcast too, so we might hear some kitty meowing. So hello everybody. Nice to be here. Yay!
Welcome to you and your beloved kitties,
Thank you.
Cappy and Ellie.
Yay! I like Misty,
Welcome.
by the way. Perfect word.
My friend, I was realizing like 20 minutes before I wanted to start taking notes about what we should talk about and write down questions and stuff. And I was like, oh, what? We never do that when we start a conversation.
We just organically somehow jump in and go somewhere.
But isn't it interesting that I had the temptation to do that today before we talk publicly?
I
What
find that
what
happens a lot. Yeah.
what do you make of that?
For the same reason when you were like, "Hey, you gotta send me a bio," and I'm supposed to be the wordsmith, and it's like several words that just strike fear into my heart. Oh my God, I gotta write a bio. Oh, and then I was like, ah, and then I just let go of my imperfect best and wrote whatever was there to be wrote and sent it off. And it was like, okay, there's another place where the imperfection is trying to make my creativity and my bandwidth go crazy. And it was just like, so yeah, a little bit of imperfect best. Gotta have questions, gotta have this. Or do you want me to go there? I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna go there. I'm giving you a warning, I'm gonna go there. Or was
You're
it
going to go there?
I'm gonna go there. Was it your inner bully that was going, Jason, you gotta have questions for this? In a little tiny form. Little tiny inner bully.
In you and I, we've been talking a lot for several years about the inner and what have we come up with in several years? How would you define the inner?
Oh man.
I'm asking you because I don't want to have to do it.
It's kind of like, the name for God. Oh no, I can't speak about religion. It's like, how many names there are for God or for spirit or divine. How many
Yeah.
names are there for this thing within us, the critical voice, the you can't do it that way voice, the potentially creative voice that says, "Oh, but you could do it a much better way, and we could go for the big picture, and we could expand out 5 million." I'm being, in hyperbole here. I like your use of the inner bully because it's a new phrase for me that helps me to actually relate to it better than all the words that have come before. Been there, done that, heard that platitude, tuned out, not listening anymore. Um, but working with the inner bully is helping me to go, oh, hi, there you are. Oh, nice to see you again. Maybe. But I at least recognize you, and now I can make different choices. It's a choice point for me. So bravo.
As we talk about the inner, it seems so counterintuitive in a way. Like if we humans had like a 20-foot long tail that we were dragging through life.
Yeah,
Like like why would we be created
yeah.
with this thing within us that is kind of likes to seemingly sabotage us, make fun of us, convince us we aren't good enough, and generally make us miserable. Why will we have that 20-foot tail in life?
I don't know. I think there's a lot of reasons. I think one of them is just simply that w- we've been conditioned or we got used to having it present, and that I don't know, a lot of it seems like we just got used to having it be part of the dialogue, part of the conversation, like it's just simply there. Um, and we've been working on how to listen to something different or to tune into something different or to, I mean, I think there's a simplicity to that. And I also think being human is complex. And I think that there's multiple layers to an inner bully that goes everywhere from simplicity to the greatest of psychological trauma or spiritual trauma or all sorts of reasons why it would be present. And, from for growth in my life, I've been through a lot of different modalities and formats as to how you do your self-esteem or your self-growth, and tried a lot of them, and they worked for a season, and then they worked or they didn't work. And I just think that sometimes when you're in a place where things feel really hard, some of us are wired to not be as proactive. Sometimes for some of us, it's just really hard to argue with the inner bully. And so we allow ourselves the comfort of the rabbit hole because, we just don't always know. We don't have the bandwidth. That's one of my favorite words. It's a choice, but we don't always have the bandwidth for the choice. And sometimes it's just easier to succumb. But everybody's wired differently. So everybody experiences their form of inner bully in different ways.
So everyone gets into challenging circumstances in life, and we often deal with challenging circumstances by fight, flight, or
Yeah,
freeze, and
yeah.
in that I've had the freeze response on many occasions in my life, and it can be so frustrating because my mind knows I want to do something. My mind knows I want better, but at the same time, so then I'm in the argument. Part of my mind is arguing for better, and oh, Jason, do this, do that, do this. And the other part of my mind, maybe the inner bodily part, is going, mm, no, that's not good. That's not going to work. That's stupid. That's going to get you in trouble. On and on and on and on.
That's why I like your coming up with the idea of the inner bully because I think the stereotype, maybe I shouldn't say that word, but the concept of a bully is one who abuses or terrorizes or makes one's life challenging or difficult or, anywhere from, I don't know, from Mean Girls as a stereotype to a one-on-one kind of thing where two people are going at it. And I think you've come up with a lot of nuances for the inner bully. It's not just the one narrow version, but it's a full plug and play of all the different reasons why we would um, challenge ourselves or speak unkindly of ourselves or never be enough or fill in the blank with all the different layers and levels to it. I find since you introduced the inner bully to me, it's been a really effective tool because, as I said, I like the wording of it. And it helps me to identify that, okay, this is a situation where the inner bully is saying you need to be perfect. You need to be more creative. Well, you know what? I am creative, but we go back to the bio. I didn't have the time in my life to spend crafting more of a bio than what was there. And there had to be at some point to make the deadline. And so it was important to have some perspective and some concept as to what was priority, what was important. And at that point it was not to go off and write. It was to make it so that it worked. It was allowing my imperfect best. It was like going, "Hi, I understand you, but not going to happen." And then what can I do and be happy with it and send it off? That's just one of a million examples of where I'm finding it really wonderful.
Part of what the inner bully often likes to do for whatever reason is to be super critical of our efforts. Like I got your bio and I found those sentences I read today in the bio, and that they're just gems, and they're perfect for this, and they're perfect for what I was hoping for, but the inner bully going, oh, how many of you had like 10 more hours? You could do a better job, and sometimes sometimes the inner bully asks us to take more time than necessary to complete a task.
This is just one area, but it's like so many things go back to our inner judgments and perspectives. It comes to me from not feeling like I'm enough, not feeling like I'm worthy, like how I see myself in the world. Like, if I don't write the perfect bio, then people won't know who I am and what I'm about, and they won't hire me. And then it just escalates from there. And then I'll be out on the street because I won't have enough money for rent. And then, I don't know what'll happen to, and this whole story has happened from the simplicity of I didn't spend enough time on my bio, which sounds so silly, but that's such a sample of where we put ourselves when that voice gets stronger and stronger and stronger, and it's the antithesis in some ways of self-care. Like, really, dude?
And then, I mean, it also affects other people. Like what we're talking about with perfecting the bio or perfecting the website, perfecting the look of the store. If someone has a brick and mortar store, I mean, all those perfecting of things can take years. And 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 meanwhile, your customers are waiting in metaphorical line, going, "I'm hungry. I just want to eat." I just want your coaching, or I just
Yeah,
want your insight if you're writing a book.
yeah.
They're not they're not waiting for perfection. They're just waiting for the next meal.
Or their next book or their next whatever. Yeah, it's really interesting that you say that. It's interesting how um, I think, you've shared a lot of different parts about the inner bully and where we find it, from this to very serious things where people are just trying to have a better quality of life. But the patterns just keep coming up again. They're ingrained in us. They're how we've learned to speak, how we've learned to language things, how we've learned to be okay with it, how we've learned to. What was the old saying that at some point you're parenting yourself? Your parents are no longer the ones that are
Hmm.
putting out the layers that might make you feel or do or behave a certain way. At some point, you've adopted the role of being your own parent, and you're the one that is doing this because that's what you've learned, or you don't know how to do it differently, or I don't know where else can we go with this. It's because it's a very widespread topic, and I just don't want it to feel like it's hmm, my inner bully is going, well, I just don't want people to say that it's just about you couldn't write your bio the way you wanted. It sounds almost spoiled in comparison to all the different ways that we can bully ourselves or bully another, and all the places that it comes from and all the reasons and all the things that it impacts.
The inner bully, as we're talking, I've never thought of this exactly before, which is the awesome part about conversations. They generate so many ideas, but 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 the inner bully can almost become unquestioned, like 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 gravity. Like I didn't get up this morning and go, "Oh, am I going to stay on the ground or am I going to float?" I just know. I just take gravity for granted, and in our relationship with the inner body, unless we start really thinking about it and identify it, can just be like, this is how I relate to each other. No, none of those words. Some of them. It can just be like, oh, this is how I relate to myself. I'm always hard on myself. It's just how I am. I always talk myself out of doing the things I really want to do. It's just how I am. I always am too critical. I'm always too perfectionistic. It's just who I am. But
I like that phrase. That's really huge. Like it's just, wow, is that making a statement about how one sees oneself? It's just how I am. It just is. Period. Done. Drop the mic. No discussion. No anything. No room for it just is. It just is. It's just the way I am, which is an interesting cycular of okay, so where is their acceptance for that's just the way I am as imperfect best, or accepting parts of
mm,
me that just is the way I am, that just is the way my body is, that just is the way I interact with people, and where it becomes either self-defeating or self-defining or keeps us what is it, the old parable of the young elephant that you stake into the ground, but then the elephant grows really big, and this stupid stake is keeping this elephant from moving.
mm.
There's a dichotomy between acceptance and knowing that there's more, and then what that more looks like, or why we should have more, or why we should have dreams.
The serenity prayer, and I'm not going to get it exactly right, but it says something they use the word God. God, God grant me the humility to accept what I cannot change, the wisdom to change the things I can. But then it's the wisdom to know the difference
Yeah,
between the two.
yeah,
The courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. It's always going to be a dance. It's always going to be a dance, right, Allie?
hi
It's
Ellie.
always going to be a dance
Mhm.
between accepting who we are in life, and then also expanding, because part of us, I love that image with the elephant behind you. Part of us always like this great elephant stake to this tiny stake, and we could just run free if only we had awareness that we were the great things keeping ourselves in the same place. Like the inner body can almost keep us on a treadmill,
Mhm.
and tell us that the treadmill is life, but really it's just a treadmill. It's not life.
Yeah, and I like that. I like that awareness of the inner bully can keep us from being free. It
Mm,
can throw in so many. I mean, there are things to be cautious about. There are things to take heed of. Um, it's a point of view as to how we live, perhaps back to half empty or half full, or how we approach everything around us or as Einstein said, is the universe a friendly place or a non-friendly place? I mean,
mm,
I don't ever want to make light of anybody's situation as to why they would have an inner bully, or when they're doing the best that they can, or it's just about an awareness that somebody can finally show up for. To me, it's layered, and it it can take time, and it's part of the growth process, part of the journey. So um, I think the beauty of it is, I mean, I think one of the things that I've noticed in my own life is how hyperbole the inner bully can get for me, and how
What do you mean by that?
exaggeration of circumstances that aren't necessarily true, where the story of what I'm telling myself escalates beyond anything related to the actual truth of how it's going to play out. And I've already decided and am in that place of, well, of course this is going to happen. And it's a it's a very challenging place. I think there's spiritual practices out there. There's all kinds of different practices that people have to identify this energy this way, and snap out or change or redirect, or there's, like I said, there's a million and one words for the process. um, Again, I go back to the fact that I like inner bully because it shows, to me, the word bully, in it has a connotation of damage. There's a damage that happens from the inner bully that to me is more striking than some other words that have been used before. There's damage by the concept of what a bully does. There's damage from the results of a bully. And those damages can be lifelong things that we take with us, that we remember, that keep us from being free, or being more of who we are, or being brilliant, or trying things. Um, there's an intrinsic inner bully to the Marianne Williamson statement of, not that Marianne Williamson's is saying, but that it's the concept of who are we to believe that we are so brilliant, you know? That's got an intrinsic inner bully to it right there. Who are we to believe that we could be brilliant, that we could be anything, fill in the blank, as opposed to who are we not to be? If you just take it completely out of context and just, take that one sentence, who are we not to be so brilliant?
Um, the, you bring up the word damage, which is really powerful in this context, and comes back to being aware of the animal. For as a younger person, for much of my life, I thought, I was proud of my mind. I mean, I still am, but I was proud and willing to let my mind kind of kind of just think about whatever it wanted, and follow those roads as far as I could, because I thought, any thought if I'm thinking of them, of it's not that bad, and that's true. I mean, we are free to think anything, but the thing is that when I think thoughts that belittle myself, those thoughts have a can have a cost, so it behooves me to think of something. It behooves me to move my energy in a different direction.
I agree, and I'd never thought of it in terms of damage, because I think it goes back to a sentence you talked about earlier of, well, it just simply is. I simply am this way, okay? Has its place, but like with everything, nothing is either black or white or this or that. Um, Jack Canfield's been a very big influence in my life, and I remember when I first, it was on cassette tapes, crazy. Before he was Chicken Soup Guy, and he did this program called the 12 Steps to High Self-Esteem. And I remember him talking about even little things that chip away at your self-esteem. Like if you walk into a room and there's a pile of stuff, and every time you walk into the room, you see that pile and you have the thought, I should have taken care of that pile. I need to take care of that pile. I need to deal. And to me, I could see what he was saying because it was just like it just chips away at you. Do it or take it out of the room or, you know, make some decisions about it, but that's just the metaphor for how many times in life, how many things there are that it's just right there in our face and it chips away. It's like erosion or it just
Mm.
chips away at the self-esteem. And so we're left with less percentage of self-esteem to be able to work with if the inner bully just keeps chipping away and it's just kind of like who was it in Winnie the Pooh? Is Igor the donkey who's kind of like goes
Eeyore, yeah.
yeah, just sometimes that's just the way it feels and it can get to the point where it does impact, you know, whether we want to stay on the planet or not, whether we feel we can actually make a difference, whether we feel like it's just too hard, too challenging. And, you know, to me, it comes back, you know, like if Byron Katie worked with the idea of the inner bully, you know, and being able to ask, is it true? Well,
Mm.
sometimes it is true, sometimes it feels true, sometimes there's a truth that we simply don't know, and we're just projecting and assuming based upon our previous patterns and behaviors. Some of us are really good at jumping to conclusions, especially, you know, the creative ones. We're like, oh man, we can spin a story like you can't even believe.
And lightning fast too.
Lightning fast,
It's
I'm
so
there, you
fast.
know, like, hey, I've already got, you know, the whole thing played out. And like, I have no idea how it's going to play out. I can hold the space for the best possible outcome, but I don't have a crystal ball. And even if we do, they're not terribly accurate on this.
Happy New Year, happy 2024, Deborah. I'm glad you love this topic. We obviously do too. Have you experienced the inner bullying at any point in your life? Just, in a way, I ask that. Curious for sure. For anyone listening, if you've experienced the inner bully, like a little bit of how you've experienced. But I would assume most humans have experienced it in some shape or form. But I'm not sure because I haven't interviewed most humans.
I love that. There, I don't know. I don't know if this is relevant or not, but when I did photography and I was active with the American Society of Media Photographers, which was kind of like the ones that help people determine what rights you would sell for photography. And they gave the example like, well, if a client comes to you and wants all the rights to all the images to use however they want, and let's say they sell parkas, they don't exactly want to be in the northern desert of Africa market to sell parkas. So this whole idea of hyperbole of it's all, I got to have all of this is not always helpful or relevant. So, you know, the hyperbole, the hype, the inner bully is really good at drawing those conclusions and telling those stories. Oh, and boy, it loves picking out things of the past to, you know, inner bully is lawyer. It's like, well, I'll do a brief for you just to show you the history of all these times that it actually happened. That's one that I'm trying to work with right now is the beliefs of, well, it's always been this way, or this is the way it's always played out before, or Mercury in retrograde, I just got to be really careful because it's when cats die and things happen and I no longer have a car by past experiences. That doesn't mean that this time Mercury in retrograde is going to be that kind of a force in my life. And how can I make intelligent decisions around it? Well, maybe I don't want to go to the dentist. Maybe I won't start something medical, but there's a lot of other things that I can do not to have that story, not to have the inner bully going. Got to be afraid. Gotta. Where else have we talked about the inner bully, Jason? What else? What other forms or layers have we talked about where it's taken or how it's impacted or?
You mentioned something really large few minutes ago. Sometimes the inner bully is not just a thought, but a feeling in the body, a feeling of dread, a feeling of certainty that that not good things are going to come in, and and sometimes that feeling is almost harder to shake than the thoughts, because we can reason with the thoughts, but that feeling is so can be so encompassing.
Is the visceral responses of cellular memory or the body responding to traumatic, dangerous, difficult, challenging circumstances of abuse by another. Um, it's not just the thoughts, it's the body's reaction that is frequently saying, hey, we're scared here. We have reason to be scared. The past has been scary. Um, and that's really to be honored. I think it's a very I honor the process of anybody that has had to move through that, myself included. I think if we bring it back to then where's the role of identifying the inner bully, it's an ability to be with at least recognizing that the inner bully is at play and the body's having a visceral reaction. And what can I do in this moment to be in a different place, a different potential outcome? If I'm well enough or if I have enough bandwidth to be able to show up for, or if I'm in process of moving through trauma, where I can ask the question of where is this inner bully? Where is this visceral? Because my body will feel that it's true. So even trying to do, the questioning of is this true, but we can start to use different tools, different questions to at least have a dialogue, to at least not take it at face value and to go, okay, might have to breathe hard through this one, but is there a way I could be with this differently? Can we have a different conversation? Does it need to be a healing session or a physical modality or exercise that will help the cellular memory to start to process through so that there can be more experiences of safety than there was? So it's not just the absolute story that's coming in our face that puts us into that place where we can barely move. And again, I'm not trying to simplify many subjects which are so intensely challenging for so many. By no means trying to give a blanket. I'm just simply talking about a couple of places of inner bully and how damaging it really is. So I'm just talking about a couple of examples here, not trying to be an expert.
Yeah, me neither. But one of the questions for us and for everyone listening is so when the inner when the inner does like the sounds of the fire alarm in the head and
The cage rattling.
the what?
The cage rattling.
Yeah, the cage rattling, the fire alarms, the parts clanging, and the body gets all tense and such, breathing more shallowly, and is less inclined to remember to drink water,
Or
and
breathe. Or breathe. Or
breathe,
pause. Right.
and
Yeah.
the shoulders go up, the stomach clenches, and just you feel the fight or flight coming on. What, and it's probably a little different for each one of us, but what do we do in that moment to calm the inner bully?
I think it's a great phrase of calming the inner bully. I'm a big fan now of using more gentle words to have relationship with some of the things that have been really a challenge. I like the idea of how to calm the inner bully, how to have a conversation with it. I think for me, what has been really effective since we started talking about this for me lately is identifying that it is the inner bully. It's like, oh, right. You're the inner bully. Okay, right. You come with a certain set of, excuse me, circumstances or certain elements. Oh, this isn't necessarily true. Okay. And I can start to remember that it's not this situation that's coming at me, but it's something that's just projected. The inner bully is just going rattling the cage. And if I can step back and breathe and really understand, oh, that's inner bully, it helps me to calm down, to at least be aware that, well, what other choices could I make? What other options are there? Is there a different story that I can tell myself?
Is that a different story that I can tell myself?
Can I simply be in the next step? Okay, if the inner bully is going to come on, then all right, we're going to take this one step at a time. That's really helpful for me. And what is mine that's next to do? Okay, one step, one action, one foot in front of the other. Just keep moving forward and allow it to unfold rather than trying to project how it's going to end up. And this is different than having a vision for the best possible outcome or holding that space or that knowing. It's the actual steps that one is with.
Well, why? Hey, first of all, hey Lee, it's been years. Great to see you, my friend. So, can you identify at all how how taking the very next step helps you to recenter and helps you
Yeah,
to
that's cool.
calm the inner bully?
I'm going to use this example just because it's really on top in our household right now. My kitty, Cappy, has a mass at the very bottom of his belly. It's about the size of a ping pong ball. It's just not attached to anything except the skin on the outside on the body. So, we go to the vet, and the vet's like, "Okay, we're going to take a sample, and we're going to send it out." And the inner bully starts to go, but you can fill in all the blanks about an upcoming surgery for a 13-year-old cat that's possible to go with. I don't want to state them, but everybody knows where that goes. And then the doctor calls, and the doctor says, well, there are 3 things that this could be. And again, I could have gone into a massive story as to what's going to happen or not happen. And so the vet was also great because the vet was helpful. The vet's like, well, let's not go to Dr. Google and let's just take
Dr.
this
Google.
one step at a time. Okay. So one step at a time is we don't know enough about it. So let's do a surgery. Let's remove the mass and just hold the space that get completely clean margins. And the kitty lives, a whole bunch of years. Okay, then the inner bully can come in and go, but what if it is? We don't know that right now. All we know is that we need to schedule surgery. Well, what if the blood test shows? Well, we're going to wait and see what the blood test says before we go into projection. And for us, it's been just trying to be calm with what is possible. The mask can come out. It'll be great. Kitty's got perfect blood. And, it's a smooth, easy operation. And then, so what are the steps in between? All right. We need to get some homeopathic remedies from Google, from wherever it is, Amazon. We need to get them a soft cone. We need to research. So there's just, I don't know, except that I hold the space and it's one step at a time. So the inner bully doesn't get to come in and say, yeah, but how about Friday when you drop him off? Well, today is Wednesday. I'm not dropping him off. He's perfectly fine right now. He's happy. I'm taking steps. So I don't know if
He's happy and his name is
that's
Cappy.
happy. Exactly. And I don't know if that's a good example or not, but it's me focusing more on what I can do and what the next step is rather than going into the conversation with the inner bully that could say all these things. So I breathe. Me facing trauma is generally a trip to the rabbit hole and then I don't come out. And then I'm in that rabbit hole. I'm not, everybody's different. Some are some follow a practice where they know that there's only one truth to it and this is the way it's going to happen and they just know that unequivocally. Some of us can be a little bit more half empty. Some of us have had experiences where we tend to bring in the beliefs and patterns. We all are at different stages with ourselves and the inner bully and what we need and what the process is. And I can only speak for myself right now, but having done the self-growth and really worked on self-esteem and self-awareness, I'm finally at a place where I can be calm with the inner bully. And,
Be calm with the inner bully.
yeah. And that was through choices and different decisions and doing my work and taking some homeopathics and self-care and trying to be more. So, the inner bully is all over the place. The inner bully can also be going, well, hey, you didn't want to take that remedy tonight. And by the way, and it's got its fingers in everything.
It does.
It really does.
You highlighted again the one of the habits of the inner bully, at least both of our inner bullies, is creating massive assumptions about the future, and I mean, and you can say, oh, what I used to say more, well, I'm just making up things about the future. If they don't come to pass, what's the harm in it? But as assumptions about the future can either inspire us to move in the
Yeah.
direction we want to go,
Yeah.
or they can make us want to scurry down the rabbit hole and not
I love the word
and,
scurry. Oh my God, I
and
love the word scurry. Um,
scurry and not come out for a
forever.
long time. And
I'm
so,
going to say, Jason, would you mind talking about that for like a minute? I'm going to take a quick break and I'll be right back.
cool, sounds great. Um, for me, like the I learned the power of making assumptions early on, and in seventh grade, I was full of assumptions that I was gross, that I would never amount to anything, that I couldn't do anything, and I mean these assumptions weren't neutral for me at all. They I followed them, and they led me in the direction of choosing or attempting to take my own life, and it's only after I called for help, and after some time had passed, that I started realizing that the assumptions I had made were completely, they were untrue. But at the time in seventh grade, when they were in my head and I was struggling with them,
Yeah.
they seemed like the gospel truth.
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing we can do with more and bodily awareness. If we can move something from being absolute gospel truth to realizing, oh, that's an assumption. Sure, it's one possibility of how the future will play out, but there are thousands of other possibilities. So why get fixated on this one possibility that feels painful right now? That I often think about that these days. That we don't know what the future holds, but we, but I know definitely from being a worrywart, if I worry about the future right now, I'm going to be guaranteed of feeling pain right now. And why do I want to feel pain about something in the future that may likely not happen? Preparing for the worst can take an unbelievable amount of energy in the present. So why not do our imperfect best to focus more on the present and proactively create what we want, and then the future will be what it will be. And you could say, well, yeah, Jason, it may be really, really bad. And that's one possibility, but it also might be magnificently good. And why would I want to miss out on that magnificent goodness?
That's a statement that we could ask the inner bully, like, why would we want to miss out on the magnificent goodness? And I can almost feel the inner bully going, oh, really? Seriously? Wow, I hadn't thought about that one. I think this might be lateral. I think one of the things that the inner bully identification does for me is I like to call them entry points. You know, honoring when you were in seventh grade and all this was collapsing around your head and what you were believing and what felt very true. And having circumstances where the dialogue is I'm not good enough, or who am I to dream about this. The range is so dramatic from hi, the circumstances are so bad I'm going to take my own life, I see no way out, to having
To the bio thing. I
exactly
mean,
an entry.
that's a huge range, right?
A
Between
huge
I'm
range.
going to take my own life and this bio is frustrating me. Huge. You couldn't even see my hands.
Yeah,
I guess this has to represent the
yeah,
huge
exactly.
range.
Just,
Uh,
and
that
you
you
know
know what I mean.
the the nature of it though is that taking it into a different context is, depending on where somebody is at in their life, that frustration with not being able to get the bio right and having all those worries as to what could possibly happen if nobody would hire you, blah, blah, and in some ways that can have as much a damaging impact depending on where somebody is at in their levels of frustration or challenge or where they're coming from. But with any modality or practice, it seems that it's what we can revert back to that helps us get out of it. It's mindfulness, it's awareness, it's applying a discipline or a practice so that we just get used to the redirect, the question and the inquiry, what is the tools that we use that will help us to not take what the inner bully says is true, but to be an inquiry or to ask or to use a tool to look at it from a different perspective. These add up as well. It gets easier to do it, makes a difference.
I am so glad you mentioned tools. I feel that my toolbox is constantly expanding, sometimes in big ways, sometimes in small ways, but I mean, so at this point in my life, I feel consistently the best that I felt since I was a little kid. But but that you do, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that the tools I'm using today, if I just say, oh gosh, I have the perfect tools and the perfect system, so just rinse and repeat for the rest of my life. I don't know if that will work, and I don't know if I will want it that way, because part of the excitement of life is growing, and I and oh my gosh, when the inner bully is bored, when I'm bored, so the inner
Oh my
bully,
God! Wait a minute. That's one we hadn't talked about before. When the inner bully was bored. Oh my God! Sorry.
when I'm bored, so my inner bully is bored. Oh wow, can my inner bully find things to do with that boredom to fill the time? Just on and on and on, and talk about generating assumptions and creating more and more stories. And yeah, it's like the inner bully is like, I see you bored. Let's explore this rabbit hole for a few weeks. And and that'll take up enough time.
And they come from everywhere in all directions. And I find that as I'm mindful about some aspects now, even more so than before, of the inner bully, it'll come up from behind me in some angle from some place, and this thing will hit out of the blue, and all of a sudden it'll be like, oh my God, I've just been hit and damaged, and now what do I do? And I'm free falling, and help me. And you know, that's when I hope one of my angels or something, appears with a plate of, here are your tools, by the way, you could do this, and you forgot that you could do this, and did you remember, and maybe I could help you, and don't forget about grace. And it's like it's not quite so bleak as it used to be. At least there's balance now, where there's some angels and guides talking and saying some things, not just the inner bully. It's just like, wow.
Along with expanding the tools we use to work with the inner bully and to comfort it, there's also, like you say, like there's being aware of the inner bully is a constantly expanding experience, because it's not like the inner bully always. If the inner bully has been taping notes on the back of I should saying kick me. It's not like they're always going to be taping notes on the back of our shirts saying kick me. The inner bully has a million ways to get into our lives. So it's being aware of the next way
Mm-hmm.
and then oh being aware of the next way, noticing that and go, oh, what tools can I use to work with this situation to comfort the inner bully, to comfort myself, to move forward instead of going in a direction I don't want to go.
And all of this is really, I think, honoring people's journeys, people's paths,
Mm,
why they're on the planet, what the purpose is. You can bring in soul's purpose. There's a lot of aspects. It can be very simple or very complex, anywhere in between. It really does come into how can we be mindful and present to living a quality of life, and even entertaining with truth that we could have quality of life and what that might look like in all ways. I mean, I think even for many of us, depending on where we are, the quality of life, and knowing that that's possible, whether it be moving out of challenges or coping with things that are really hard, or simply trying to be in a different quality of life or in our growth. I think the inner bully shows up in all those places in different ways with different roles and different hats and different approaches. And, I think you and I have talked about having conversations with the inner bully so that it isn't just a kick to the curb, but, one of my words that I love is honoring. Okay, I
mm,
honor where you're coming from. I honor that that might have been true, wherever you're getting your information from, but now, no, not so much. So we're going to go in a different direction. But that takes courage to make those choices, to switch, to be with something more than it seems is possible. It takes courage and discipline and perseverance to just keep practicing, practicing,
mm,
applying, practicing, working with others, getting support,
mm,
getting different support, because sometimes
mm,
we level out and we need a different entry point, as to how we can believe that there's quality of life and dreams come true and things can be better. And you know you have you have stories about people coming from places that are really hard or horrendous or challenging, and yet there was something inside of them that was able to move through it. Some of us have that gift, some of us don't, some of us it was learned, some of us it needs to be applied, or it needs to be revisited if something happens in our lives and we go back down to the rabbit hole. It's such an interesting topic that I think we've just like just kind of skimmed different.
So this is hour one of a 10-hour podcast. Harmony and I are going to do it.
Oh, I like
So,
that.
so get your popcorn and settle in. J- j- just, just kidding. J- just, yeah. But there is truth in that joke that we are like you say just skimming the surface and I hope pe- people watching this you watching this will just use this podcast as like a trailhead as you start your exploration
Yeah.
as you start a more intentional exploration with your inner bully and just noticing more and and building up your tool belt for working with the inner bully and finding what works for you and what doesn't. this is a lifelong long process. It's not just. I mean, we don't have. At least I don't have an overnight process for you.
No, I think it is. I think it is a process. For me, it's a new way of being with an old subject. I think that
Mm,
I'm a big fan of new entry points or new words or new language that comes in that shows us that gets our attention because you can only talk about the ego so much until I just blank and I'm not present. But I think the inner bully has so much across the board of how it impacts people. And again, because bully has that aspect of damaging, people might start to take more notice that it's damaging, that this self talk is damaging. It's not just okay. It's not something we can live with or manage. It's damaging. I'm just kind of getting this. It's interesting that it's like other movements that are happening where we're gaining more awareness about human rights or different groups
mm,
of people
mm,
that have experienced certain things, and we're starting to come to a more collective place of going, but it's really not okay. And where that
mm,
starts to lead us in not
mm,
accepting it anymore, but now what can we do experience moving forward for ourselves and for others that starts to shift this in yet a new way that hasn't been done. And I think that putting damaging with inner bully puts it into a much more serious element, even though it's simplistic about a bio as a very simple, it's still damaging. It's still
mm,
taking away from what is good or what could be or projecting, or it's it's damaging. And I think when we really can start to be with that this is damaging, I think we might find a different way that people are going to be able to show up for it and really get on board with inner bully is damaging. We don't, yeah, that would be
and
topic.
and damaging doesn't necessarily mean the inner bully is bad. The inner bully just is part of each of us. But I like to think of damaging in terms of the inner bully takes us in directions we don't want to go, which kind of damage our momentum towards where we want to go. So if we start being aware of the damage and taking ownership of it and taking a new course.
I agree, and
Um
I think I would add in that as I'm getting that I think many of us don't fully comprehend or adhere to things that are damaging in our life.
mm,
I think it's taken too lightly. I think
mm,
the little tiny pieces aren't given enough credibility as to forming wear and tear. There
mm,
damage is damage, and when it compounds, it becomes even more damaging, and it doesn't have to be the most terrible challenge. If there's damage done to self-esteem or to self-worth or to how we believe or can see ourselves, if there's damage done because of the way we're thinking or a visceral response, I think that's something that's I think that's something that needs to come into more awareness, more mainstream awareness, more of people's. It's damaging. It's damaging. It's not okay. It's damaging.
mm,
And you can manage, you can live, but it's damaging. So yeah, I'm all of a sudden that's like in my,
mm.
the guides are having fun with that one. In case
Wow.
you didn't notice, the rhythm
Wow.
changed, and the guides are, like, wanting to shake and go, "It's not okay."
Hmm.
These little things are not we make them okay because 'cause they're not big things. They're not okay
Hmm.
because they add into big things. Okay.
Hmm. Hmm.
I am back.
That's powerful, powerful. So before we get into our 2 through 10 of this conversation,
Yeah, you see how we could just go in momentum?
yeah, yeah. I'll ask you one question, and will you please answer it, and then please ask me that back. And I ask all my guesses at the end of the show how many as of today Jan- Wednesday January 17th, 2024. What does doing an imperfect best mean to you?
I feel like, Actor's Studio where you know the question is coming, but somehow you never thought to prepare for it. I love it. Um, Doing my imperfect best. It means having the courage and the commitment to show up, to be aware when I'm trying to be perfect and I don't need to be. I think it's a place of checking in as to how much perfection is needed to be able to create something wonderful or balance as to what's a priority. I think it's having a clarity as to what is needed in the moment. I think it's having an awareness of how much to do or to not to do, and to bring in an element of grace and acceptance for what can be done, to have an understanding what can I do now and then what can I do later. I think that doing one's imperfect best really allows for the growth of tremendous self esteem and self worth because it allows one to breathe into what is rather than what isn't, and just know that there could be more that could happen or unfold. And in this moment, it was imperfect best. It was exactly what was needed.
Beautiful. Will you please ask me the same question?
Yeah, Jason, what does doing your imperfect best mean look like to you?
Well, interesting question, Harmony. I didn't expect that, but no, I
Wow.
so doing my imperfect best has given me the life I live now. I try living a perfect life when I was in middle school, and and it took me a long time beyond middle school to step from from yearning after that perfect life to really embracing an imperfect best life. Embracing the imperfect best life allows me to show up and give my gifts. And I don't have to prove to myself or anyone else that I'm perfect, that I know all the answers, that I'm in control of every situation. It's a huge relief to be able to do my imperfect best and to prosper, do my imperfect best. And oh my gosh, does it made me much more creative. When I was trying to get everything perfect, that like 100 creative ideas would come in, and I would say no to 99 of them. And after a while, the creative muse is just like, oh, what's the point? What's the point? I'm just going to be rejected. So I had a feeling of becoming less and less creative. But now I feel more creative with each day, and it's just wonderful. Thank you for having this conversation with me, my friend. Thanks for
Likewise, back at you.
being my friend.
Mm.
Is there any mean people watching this will know where to find me, but is there any way where you want people to look for you on the web, or do
Thank you.
you
I
want to
mean,
remain a mystery?
I've done mystery for way too long. I think it's fun being public now. My name, harmonysedona.com, HarmonySedona.com.
And I urge you all to go to this website not only for the information it has, which is amazing, but because it's just a beautiful,
Thank you.
beautiful website. It just feels good to go to the. It just feels good to see this website. So, thank you, my friend.
Thank you, my friend. I love doing this with you. I love having conversations with you. I love talking about things. And I hope there will be more chapters to this because I think this is a huge topic that has a lot that I really want to see this coming to people's attention. I think there's amazing tools and new perspectives here that can help so many people.
Mm. We'll keep creating on this topic, and the more people the more other people are thinking about it, the more that creativity will enter into this topic, which is exciting to think
Yeah, it
about.
really is. It's a beautiful topic that Spirit has given you to explore and bring into the world. It's so needed. I think it's going to help so many in so many different ways, and I'm just a big fan for you. I love how you think. I love how you speak. I love what you care about. I love how you bring it into the world, and I love that you care that people. It's important for them to experience this and to learn and to see how they can shift things.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh my gosh, thanks for tuning in. That was a conversation, a long conversation, and as with conversations, any conversation, I had no idea where would lead quite, but it led to amazing, beautiful places. I encourage you to keep this conversation going either by commenting directly on this or personal messaging me or Harmony, or and most importantly by talking boldly and boldly with the people around you, the people closest to you, and saying, "Oh, I saw the thing, and this is what Harmony and Jason were saying, and this is what I've experienced, and this is my thoughts on it, and this is where I disagree with Harmony and Jason, and what do you think, and just keep the conversation going. I do all this because I love doing it. It fills my heart and soul in my life, but I also do it because I believe human beings, and I believe life is just so. Uh, this life has so much potential, for creating great things and wherever we are, there's so much more to go into, and it's just exciting. Thanks for tuning in, and tune in for another episode next week. Thanks for being you.